All right, says we're being live streamed, so
And setting it. What I run into.
the supervisor, you are good.
We are off.
We are off.
I welcome everyone to this December 28th, 2002 last meeting of the Rush Town Board. And I'm delighted to see so many smiling faces in the group. So, with that being said, will you join me, please, for our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and for the roll call? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilman Corbin,
Here.
Councilman Morelli,
Here.
Councilman Oliver,
Here.
Supervisor Cusie,
Here.
and excused is Councilman Chase.
In much more desirable weather than we are in.
Not much. It's cooler in Florida.
Well, we're hoping for the best for him. Under announcements, I want to mention a couple of things that are under announcements only because I didn't want to ask the secretary to republish this agenda once again. I don't know how many times she retyped it, and I said, no, we're just going to put that under announcements and I'll make the announcement when I get to it. The first thing is the library budget. I recently became aware that the library budget was being produced under former direction from a former finance director. And I was not aware that the library budget was produced not using up-to-date directives from the state controller. And that resulted in some inappropriate comments being made at a previous budget meeting. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that Kirsten Flash, the library director, did not do anything wrong. She was going under some previous direction. And that's all out of the way and behind us now. So be aware that if you were in earshot of any criticism that was directed at her in a previous meeting, it was undue and unnecessary. So with that being said, I want to make an announcement that they're going to start replacing utility poles in the town of Rush. I don't know what the schedule is, but I was notified by the National Grid that they are going to do pole replacements. And they're starting immediately. I think they might have been stalled by the inclement weather that we had. But they should be back on track now because I think that weather is behind us also. I had a recommendation from our supervisor secretary, and that recommendation was to start a Facebook page. She provided me with several reasons to start a Facebook page, which I plan on sharing with the town board. And I've read through it. I think it's a pretty good proposal. There are some technical people in our community. They've recommended to me that we should do a Facebook page also. So what I plan on doing is passing this around to the town board And we will put it on the agenda for future discussion to see if this board is interested in doing it. I think it's a good idea. And I think there's one guy in the crowd that would, yeah, you should do it. So we'll be looking at that in the future. There's another item on the agenda of the Rush Riverside Refuge Run-In Shed. We'll talk about that down on the agenda. I didn't want to change the whole agenda to add that, so I put that up in announcements just to remind myself, let's not pass over this. I also want to announce that on January 11th, there will be a town board meeting. That will be the organizational meeting. And don't miss that one. There might be some surprises, even for me. Who knows? We can now proceed to the public comment period where everyone gets a chance to speak their opinion. It is not a two-way conversation, as you know. It is your opportunity to speak up, be heard. That goes for people at home also, of which I don't know how many there are.
Yes, Supervisor, if anyone is at home would like to speak in the public comment period, please enter your name in the chat feature.
And while we're awaiting their participation, would anyone in this room like to speak in the public comment period? Yes, ma'am, please address the podium, name, address, and your comment. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. My name is Phyllis Wickerham. I live at 105 Biondo Court here in Rush. I am going to ask the board several questions regarding the 1911 house lease. There were several items in it that I had questions about. The first one being the suitable for collections to be located there. What's the criteria for that determination? That was a question because from prior discussions and Councilman Chase had asked whether the historian was going to be there or not. No, she is not going to be there because it would not be handicap accessible for her to allow for view of different documents. Question 2 was in your recitals of the document tonight. Tenant desires to enter into an operating agreement with the town. In any posting of that agreement, I would love to see what is included in that agreement. Also in the recitals were parties that the best public use of the corner house would be for storage, display, and management. We've already determined that the historian will not be there. Will that take her job away from her when we are required by law to have a historian? Article 1.3 states that tenant shall take premises from the landlord and as in condition without obligation on the part of the landlord to construe any leasehold improvements, I'm sorry. But then you go down to Article 3.1, operating agreements with the landlord shall be incorporated. How are those incorporated into? The maintenance 3.3 states that landlord shall be responsible for all general utilities, including waste improvements. But we are going back to without as is condition without obligation on the town. So how is that going to be determined? What are the improvements that you will allow but not allow? 3.4 is the condition of the premise. Landlord should have no responsibility with respect to the construction of any improvements or build outs of the premises. That to me says you're not going to do it, you're not going to pay for it. But then we go down to 3.3 where you contradict yourself. We also
You have 1 minute left.
yes, I do. Other improvements provided by paragraph 6.1, landlord shall, Landlord shall have the right to hire such a professional with determination to evaluate what the improvements are. My only question is, who's paying for all of the construction that the Barrow Master Plan has proposed in their renovations? And thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else in attendance here like to speak? Would anyone else?
Anyone on Zoom?
I have no one. Clerk, do you have anyone?
We have Don Eichenhauer and Joanne Scanlon.
I think we go back and forth, so,
We could go to Zoom
all right.
and then back to the.
Pam, I don't have any of them on me, so,
First.
all right. Don, if you would, turn your video on and unmute yourself and give us your name and address, please.
Okay, my video should be on. Don
Thank you.
Eichenauer, 35 Silver Knoll, Rush. My comments relate, well, I have two comments on two different issues. One is the proposed lease for the 1911 building. I mean, I do have some concerns with the length of the lease, which is 25 years plus a 20-year option. That is based on the decision of the lessor, whether they want to exercise that option. The other is the cost to the town. There's a $1 per year lease cost. However, the town is going to pick up all maintenance, which includes utilities, insurance, maintenance of the building, which could become extensive. The third one is the lack of required goals for the organization. I understand it. The lease does say that they have to continue with their mission, but there's nothing in there that protects the town if they are not able to be successful with raising funds or moving forward or even getting their organization further started and moving along. So that's a concern. And certainly I do have a concern with who is responsible for the upgrades. Although the lease does say it is, the organization understands it's an as is, the building is as is. However, section 3.3 under maintenance, this does say the landlord is responsible for utilities, insurance, maintenance, and improvements, which would appear to be a conflict. So at a minimum, I think that the improvements should be taken out of maintenance because improvements certainly could become very costly for the town. So that is probably the biggest concern I have with this lease. And that's the end of my comments with regard to the lease. My other comment relates to the fact that at the last board meeting, the board authorized the town attorney to prepare an engagement letter for representing the town in a potential legal appeal of the horseshoe approval. I would expect and hope that if the town does appear to decide to go forward with that would be a separate arrangement that the town board would have to approve that approval, and not just approving that the town attorney prepare an arrangement letter would not commit the town to spending money, but any further action with regard to engaging the attorney should result in an additional motion by the town board that would include whatever the amount is and be fully approved and not just the request for the letter. And that is what I have.
Thank you. Anyone else in this audience? Please step up to the podium, name, address.
Good evening, Janet Walker, 791 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road. I'd like to thank the town board and the sub-board members for a year of service to our town. I welcome and thank David Howe, our town attorney, and the clerk and highway staff as well. So much has been accomplished through your diligent attention to detail and love of the town. And resident volunteers are making huge contributions. I've compiled the list and I will undoubtedly forget some important activities, so I would apologize in advance. The Werner Solar Project is coming along, testimony to the town's support for renewable energy in the right size and place. Helios as well. I'm disappointed about Horseshoe Solar, but I knew when the townspeople gave their own funds to hire the best specialized legal assistance, it would be a tough fight. No town tax dollars have funded this effort. We now have electric vehicle charging stations, and we await further information on Joule and community aggregation. We have a volunteer group called Color Rush Green, and you significantly protected the town's first responders with the battery storage law, while recognizing the need for safe battery storage for residents and businesses. The Comprehensive Plan Committee of Volunteers has dramatically picked up the pace towards a new comprehensive plan. I look forward to the survey to come and to hearing if the town will be awarded funds from the Genesee Transportation Council. Kudos for really quick work on the grant application. We await information on the grant that you put together to further pursue potable water. And the Historical Society volunteers are working hard to prepare a grant for the 9/11 house. Our partnership with Henrietta for the local waterfront restoration plan is ongoing. Clearly, the town has vigorously pursued grants this year. We're a farming community, and the needs of our farm stands and commercial farmers have been studied. Additional regulatory support now exists. A Horse's Friend is hard at work on its mission that also enhances the Bosa's property. The Genesee Land Trust has partnered with Rush families to significantly preserve acreage in the heart of the town. We're a tree city. The Rush Recreation and Parks volunteers have planted trees, are making significant progress to protect the Genesee riverbank and plant trees on 100-acre parcels. Volunteer gardeners tended the town, welcoming flower gardens, enhancing the town and saving taxpayer dollars. A tree planted in memory of Joan Starkweather gave us a chance to remember her and thank our library for what it does for our town. Speaking of volunteers, our wonderful fire department protects us day in and day out. They hosted a carnival after several years of COVID lockdowns. It was fun to come together for the parade and carnival. They support the Rush seniors and our Boy Scout troop, who recently elevated 6 fine young men from Henrietta and Rush to the rank of Eagle. A town rich in history, we celebrated our 3rd Indigenous Peoples Day, and we flew the Hiawatha flag for the 2nd year in recognition of 500 generations of Seneca living along the Genesee River and what is now the town of Rush. We welcome the addition of the Shrivada Temple along East River Road. We lost matriarch Marilyn Chase and former councilman Jack Gaffney this year. I'm not sure when the Chases came to Rush, but I believe that Councilman Dan Chase is the 7th or 8th generation to farm here. I know the Gaffneys purchased their land in Cobblestone Home in 1869. Delayed town building maintenance has taken lots of resources, time, and money, but you're paying attention to these assets, and a technology upgrade will be welcomed by all at our meetings. The relatively new administrative process of holding a monthly workshop to discuss town matters further streamlines town board meetings, and it's a success and contributes to the town board's success in tackling so many elements of administration. On tonight's agenda is evidence of further administrative growth and maturation, a process and procedures template. Residents appreciate the ability to attend in person and via Zoom. This technology is one blessing to emerge from the COVID lockdown. I will close where I began. Thank you for all you do for our town. Pam, I'll send this to you electronically for your minutes.
Thank you. I believe Ms. Scanlon would like to speak.
Yes, I believe Joanne, if you can unmute yourself and turn your video on and give us your name and residence, please.
Yeah, hi, Joanne Scanlon, 1633 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road. And Happy New Year to everybody. I know it's been a long one. Just a couple things. I know I brought this up a few meetings ago. I know that when you send out public announcements for reviewing code changes and things like that, I had asked if maybe you could put that material on your website, because not all of us can get to the town hall to actually review the materials and the proposals. I know that the existing codes and laws are available on the website, but any amendments to those that have been proposed, I am not able to find anywhere on the website. So I was just asking if maybe that could be doable so that those of us who aren't able to get to town hall but would be interested in knowing what the proposal is, that we could take a look at it ahead of time. And then the other thing is, I'm going to just follow up on last meeting's comments on Horseshoe Solar. I realized that, during the entire ORAS process, that legal attorney fees were covered through the intervenor funds. My concern again, is that I don't know, how much taxpayer dollars are going to be involved. And I think taxpayers and the residents really should know what it is your basis for the appeals are, what you're expecting, and kind of a general idea of how much it's going to cost for attorney's fees. I know you can't give me exact numbers, you can't give us exact numbers, but I think it's really, if you're going to be spending taxpayer dollars, that we really need to have a better understanding of what's involved. So I would like to request to have a public meeting to discuss those things before you vote on whether you will proceed with the appeal. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else in this room like to speak? Anyone else on Zoom?
I do not. Pam, anyone over there? No, nobody else.
Okay. Well, then, thank you to those who did speak, and we will move on to the approval of minutes.
There's only two that I'm comfortable potentially reading a resolution on, and those are September 28th and October 3rd. The remaining ones we just received today. So the other ones we had gotten a little while ago. So I don't know how Councilman Oliver or Councilwoman Morelli or you supervisor feel about that, but the first one would be September 28th, I believe is the next one in line.
I welcome your resolution.
All right. Let me find mine. I so move to approve the town board minutes of September 28th, 2022. Town board meeting is submitted by Town Clerk Busey. Is there a second? I'll second it.
Councilwoman Corbett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Supervisor QC,
Aye. You had October 3rd?
Yes, October 3rd was a workshop. So I so move to approve the workshop town board board minutes of October 3rd, 2022. Meeting is submitted by Deputy Clerk Denise and
McEvely.
thank you, McEvely. Got to practice that.
I'll second that one as well.
Councilwoman Corbett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Supervisor QC,
Aye.
And the others we just received today.
How about Councilperson Morelli? Do you have any?
Not, no, I mean, I did look at some other ones, but if people don't have a chance to review them, then I'm not going to propose that we approve them.
Okay, it's hard to play catch up.
Yes. But we're chipping away.
We are chipping away. We can move on to the approval of the abstract.
And that is me. I so move, having reviewed all vouchers on abstract 12-2 of December 28th, 2022. Authorizing payment totaling $27,619.57, which includes funding AA General for $22,592.05. Fund DA Highway for $1,790.84, and fund LL Library for $3,236.68. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Corbett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Supervisor QC,
Aye.
And Supervisor, even though it was one of our smaller ones. The big ticket items was, we made a payment to Labella Associates for $8,900 for the comprehensive planning work they're doing for us. And also, we made a payment for fines and fees to the Office of the New York State Controller's Office for $5,794.
That was not fines for us.
No, those are fines collected, fines
Thank
and fees. Yes, I should have
Yes,
added.
I'm-
It
I'm
does
glad
say
you
collected on
clarified
that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there are no budget transfers tonight. So we can move on to reports from board members and our clerk and attorney, and we can start with Deputy Supervisor Corbin. She is warmed up.
I'm warmed up. I attended the monthly Rush Library Board meeting last week. I appreciate the invite. I also attended a Zoom meeting for the New York State Farmland Protection Work Group. We've not had a meeting since early spring of this year. Once again, state for the record that this is not what I would call a working group as an elected town official and that was invited to participate by New York State. It is not a working group. The main members of the group of this are New York State appointed officials from Ag and Markets, Office of Renewable and Energy Siting, NYSERDA, DEC, and others. Also, there are major solar developers from the US that also participate. Reminds me of when I used to be on a committee in my school district where you would get asked to participate, and 95% of the time it ended up being they wanted you there so they could say that they had a nice group of people on that work group, and ultimately did not have a say because the decisions were already made. In my opinion, that has been my experience of the last 2 years. I've had feedback from some New York State government officials that I know not well, but have shared with me that their jobs are appointed. Need I say more? They are not elected. I voiced my observations and heard the same from others. A draft report was written, and yet I was not part of the drafting of that report. My input was not asked for. So, as regards as the name for this group, the New York State Farmland Protection Work Group, I find it a daunting task of protecting farmland when the draft report that they're putting out has that landowners will pay a penalty by putting solar on their land. They're not going to protect the land, that the prime soils, the landowners or developers will have to pay a penalty. There's a good website. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to. All the information is open for everyone to see. I'd like to follow that up on the complete opposite, and which is a truly inspiring and real life group that work to preserve farmland in our own hometown of Rush. And you can go on our town website, go under news, got to scroll down past all the blizzard information, and you will find a title that says the Genesee Land Trust article featuring the Chase family. If you click on that link, it gives you an incredible article and just a brief synopsis. Apologize, but I think it's important to acknowledge what these 13 landowners have done. They have protected their 8 parcels of land as farm forever through the Genesee Land Trust. It took more than 4 years for these 13 landowners to do this, and they will permanently protect 558 acres, mainly in the hamlet of Rush. So please go on and read the article
There's also a nice picture
of everyone.
of all of those participants, which is, I thought was pretty good.
It was. Lastly, I attended the Troop 134 Eagle Scout ceremony on the 18th, where 6 Eagle Scouts were honored. And I have to say it was one of the most moving and impressive ceremonies I've ever attended. Both my sons were Boy Scouts, but never made it to Eagle, so I never actually attended an Eagle Scout ceremony. And it was again, extremely moving and impressive, and I'd like to congratulate all those 6 scouts. And a special shout out to Jonathan Kachala, who was our one Rush resident. And that's all.
And it was a packed house.
It was a packed house. Packed church.
Okay, thank you very much. And how about board member Morelli?
Thanks. So I had no big meetings that I attended. The planning board did not have a meeting in December. There were no applications, so there was nothing for me to attend.
Okay. How about board member Woolaver?
No report.
Okay. And how about town clerk Busey?
I did provide the supervisor with a revenue check for the month of November in the amount of $17,608.86. And state revenues submitted amounted to $1,747. I bet everybody is happy to realize that I received the warrant to collect town and county taxes. The total warrant is $1,974,093.85, of which town taxes are $1,714,581. So the county taxes are costing taxpayers $3,259,512.85. So when they say rush taxes are so high, we have to look at the county as well. I have submitted and put on the website all previous town board minutes. And the town board has received them, although they will have to take time in reviewing them. And in answer to Ms. Scanlon's question about legislation for local laws being on the website, they are on the website. They are under the town code and they are under legislation for proposed versus the ones that are already in the town code. So if you do have questions on how to find it, please give my office a call and I will walk you right through it. That's it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
About our attorney for the town.
No report.
Thank you very much. I will just add that I was one of the presenters at the Eagle Scout event, and boy, that was a crackerjack event. What an honor to be able to salute those 6 scouts. It was wonderful, and I enjoyed it very much. We can now move on to old business, and I will take the lead with repairs to the town hall. And this is one of those subjects that I almost don't know where to start because it just doesn't stop. What I'm talking to is the need for repairs. And I will let you know where we are right at the present moment. And I agreed earlier this year to declare some of those things emergencies. And I contracted with Gordian. And Gordian was in the queue for doing 4 jobs on the town hall. And then all of a sudden, one day I got a maintenance man at my door saying, you better come upstairs and see the leaks in the town hall, not the library, not the adjoining sections, but the town hall. So we went up and I said, oh my God, I can't believe this, because there were many drip spots, actually one falling right behind the deputy clerk's office out here, because the water was coming in and just coming in faster than it could dry up. So we have I have declared an emergency to get the town hall roof fixed. And that is going to be done by Todd Fritz, a local roofer. And the complication that comes out of that is Gordian is going to use the same electronic ice sensor system, which has to wait for the new roof to be put on before that ice sensor system can be put in. It doesn't make sense to install the ice sensing system and then have to partially dismantle it, put the new roof on, and then reinstall it. So we're looking very, very, very excitedly toward this heat wave we're supposed to get over the next few days, because that will enable the roofer to put the roof on, and then immediately Gordian will come in with their contractor to do the ice sensing and ice control device, which I've had a lot of experience with these gadgets you buy in the hardware store and go up on a ladder and put it in, but this is much more complicated than that. So I remain anti-snow at this point, and I remain happily awaiting the new roof on the town hall and then the new ice control system on the whole complex. So hope for that with me, please. Number 2 under old business. We are fortunate to have Dave Slaversky here, I believe. I know that's Dave, but I believe you're going to address some of the costs that were revealed in the Barrow report. Have at it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dave Saversky. I've worked at 69 Rush Collector for 36 years. I'm also co-president of the Rush Historical Society and on the bicentennial committee along with my wife. I'd like to thank the Rushtown Board and associated parties for getting to this point on the 19th line Porterhouse. We've been working feverishly to get all the documents needed for the New York State Council on the Arts grant. There have been calls, webinars, and emails to ask the right questions and submit the proper information. The program priorities are part of the grant are accessibility, artistry, cultural development, environmental sustainability, health and safety. As we dug deeper into this, including quotes and plans, we in the Rush Historical Society were very surprised by the cost for option 1, as I assume we're all do. Looking back on this, the town approved option 1, but we now believe option 2 would be better suited to meet the needs for accessibility without having a 500 square foot interior space for a ramp, which would add additional costs, including demolition of the current area. Most of these certainly improve the space, but option 2 retains the integrity of the building, which is more in keeping with the grant. There's an 87% markup in price across the board, which is quite large. We're confident that option 2, with the current cost at $630,000, could be reduced by $200,000 to $300,000 when drawings are made and put out to bid. Another cost-cutting factor is the parking lot addition. This too can be done much later and determined at such time as improvements are needed. During our meetings, the Barrow Architects' original scale was to improve the existing residential building, and any plan with all options. As with any plan, we look at all options, and option 1 and 2 turned out to be municipal building plans and costs. So it went up. First, like, it's a residential building, let's see what we can do to fix it up. And then he added things and changed it to say, let's make it a municipal building. And that's a different dynamic. On September 2nd, 2020, the Rush Historical Society was the only organization to submit a proposal that focus was to gain a place to house rotating displays of town-oriented artifacts, as well as future treasures already promised to RHS. This space would also provide programming and a meeting space for Rush community groups. We're confident this would meet the grant's expectation and those future grants, as well as going forward with the town and its comprehensive plan. Now, later on tonight's agenda, there's proposed lease agreement. Several of us, along with Councilperson David Corbin, Dan Wooliver, Attorney David Howe, Town Historian Sue Mee, have worked out the many details for this agreement. The town has asked for liability insurance, as at 3 p.m. today, we have a quote and it was approved by RHS. So that's kind of the update. Been a wild couple weeks here, and there's some snow and cancellations in there. So that's kind of our current opinion on things. So Thank you very much for this time.
Before you leave,
Yes.
I think about this and I haven't done the math to make a determination. But do you have any idea what delaying this project in terms of additional costs are worth? I know when we redid the roof on the library, I understand it's not a scientific speculation, but the contractor told me at that time, said, why didn't you do this years ago? And the figure he gave me a guesstimate as to why it cost so much more at that time. I was just astounded and I wondered, I can't help but wondering if that same thing isn't true on the 1911 house.
Well, I mean, if what you're asking, if I look back overall in the last 2 years, the house has deteriorated externally quite a bit. And it has taken in revenue from renters for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years, I'm not sure. And money hasn't been put back into it. And so, you know, you guys replaced the roof. And that could have been done earlier, maybe saved more expensive. The inside of the house is in fairly good shape as the architects proved. In this whole thing here, it's basically how fast or how much do you want to have done at one time. But again, looking at it, I think like the parking lot situation, if you were to add it later, I think estimating that'd be minimal if needed at all. But as always, like almost any project you build now, I mean, when I go to Lowe's, first thing I go through is like, what's the cost of copper wire? It's my barometer. And it's like 200 bucks a roll, and I built my house at 80 bucks a roll. Back in 2002 when I did it. So yeah, waiting later, and prices are gonna go up. However, now, you know, I don't know if that's gonna stabilize with the current supplies and distribution. But generally it's, you know, hold off, it's gonna go up,
Once they go up, it's hard to get them back down.
pretty much, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sue, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, Dave and I have been meeting over the past, couple of weeks, both about the lease and about the grant. A lot of work, a lot of details on the grant. Getting New York State money or any hope of it. There's a lot of, I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed, and we want to make sure that we're, really answering everything that they're requiring. Because I think my feeling is we would be cost out. We're not complying with the requirements of the grant right off the top. So I think David said makes sense. As I indicated at our last meeting, the cost of what was more than we had anticipated, more than it had been initially presented to us. But I think we're working through that now and finding out that there is a lot of overhead costs that we can trim down.
That was worth adding. Thank you very much. We can now move on to what I announced back up in the announcements, and that is the run-in shed at the Rush Riverside Refuge. And I have a report that was provided to me just this past week. And the run-in shed is the severely deteriorated building that's up by School Building 9. And the last time I was over there, I did not think the run-in shed was as bad as it is. And they're gonna need, I believe, some rafter replacement, and I believe some plywood decking on that building. We were told originally that the cost of doing that was going to be in the neighborhood of $2,500. That was just a drive-by estimate, I think, because now we have an estimate to re-roof that building and put it back into usable condition of over $8,000. That was a shock to me, but after I looked at it, it isn't a shock to me because it's just one of those things that should have been done a long time ago and didn't get done. And now we have to deal with it. Any board members want to comment on that?
I was surprised when I saw that number compared to what the original estimate was.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and I think it, and tell me what you think, but I think, yeah, and it may be a good number, but I think we ought to get another estimate. Just
Don't we
to,
do an RF,
Go ahead, Dan.
don't we have to do an RFP for something of that scale?
I believe we do.
I mean, I believe that's a pretty good price, but I think we have to do our due diligence and get or put out an RFP and see what we can find out.
And I looked through the procurement policy and under guideline 3, it's not coming from the supervisor though, it's not coming from the highway. I'm not quite sure where it comes from, but it says less than 10,000 requires greater than numbers, but less than requires a written request for RFP quotes from 3 vendors. So simply mean we just need to get 3 vendors that I know RFP, big word we've used with big projects. So I'm not quite sure when we say the word RFP, I want us all to be on the same page. What?
well, I mean,
I
but is this something that a horse's friend is arranging for, that they are going to pay for upfront, or?
That was my understanding.
And then, so then it's not the town soliciting this.
We
Am I
have,
wrong, or?
we have not contracted with anybody for an estimate or for anything. This has really been done by a horse's friend.
Okay, so they're doing it, but for projects of that size or any kind of permanent improvement, again, it's my understanding, and David's here to correct me, that they would have to get approval from the town for that before doing it. And I'm just suggesting that they at least get another estimate, just to apply some, let's get some certainty as to the reasonableness of the cost.
I believe that it will be a horse's friend contract agreement with some vendor. When I look at the building now, I look at it and I think they have agreed to rent a piece of property from us without a key shed to be used for their purpose. That can't be used because it's just not, I don't think it's safe, and I don't think it's in the best interest of their horses to use that, because there's no coverage. So, if needed, I can apply the emergency application to that particular building because it is in such bad condition.
If the improvement is of the type that a horse's friend agreed to do as part of their lease, as part of the improvements to the property, then they are obligated to do that. The town doesn't need to spend any money to repair that. That's their as is taking of the property. And we had discussed initially what they were willing to do beforehand. And so the cost of that should be borne by a horse's friend. We, as Gene mentioned, we have the right to approve both at the town board level, approve what they want to do. Number one, and number two, the actual permitting of that work needs to go through the planning board. So depending on the type of work and the scope and the scale of it, that's the level of the town's oversight. If this is something that is beyond what the horse's friend is obligated to do or wants to do as part of their lease, and the town wants to take over the cost of that repair, then we would have to comply with our procurement policy.
Deputy Supervisor, would you like to comment on the subject?
The appendix C was an estimate, a guesstimate of $2,500. The run-in shed repair for the roof. I agree with you it was probably a estimate, not an actual quote. This falls under their major improvements that they get a credit off their monthly, yearly lease amount of. So that, yes, there's no taxpayer money, it's coming off their lease, their rent. I would like to see another quote. I think in any work that's gonna be done, you want to see, just as when we did the roof on the 1911 house, they were all over the place. Just, I know this vendor is local, very trustworthy. But I think we need to do our due diligence as well as the horse's friend does to make sure if they come in spot on, then we'll have to have that sit down discussion with them and see what sort of a proposal we can work with them with and they can work with us on. But I think that's the way I'd like to proceed.
I agree. I think the fact that this was an identified improvement in the original negotiation. It's just that it's coming in at a much higher cost. I think, moving forward with that, we need to make sure we're getting the best price and, well, not just the best price, but just that the right amount of work is being done. And maybe it does cost that much. And I don't mean to cast any kind of negative aspersion on the vendor. But I think it's wise. I would do it as my own house. Something came in, I would get another quote. If it was higher than what I thought or anticipated, I would get a second opinion. So I think we should ask a horse's friend to do that, to get another opinion. And then we can take it from there and approve it or whatever.
How about you, councilperson Walliver?
I think we definitely should have them get another estimate on it. And I also think that there should be, it looks like there's more work there than just the roof. Looks like rafters are involved in everything else. We should get that kind of nailed down so the second bid is on the same amount of work as the first bid, not just the price of materials.
Good point.
Right.
Go ahead.
To make sure that they're both bidding apples to apples.
Yeah, we will duly inform AHF of that and let them proceed with the haste that they feel is necessary. All in agreement?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much. You want to contact Matt, or do you want me to?
I will talk with Pat.
I'm here right now.
Right. Hey, Pat.
Hi.
I think what would be appropriate is to have Matt come and meet with us so that he has a good understanding of where we are on that project and the need for it to be done. Sounds good to everyone?
Pat, we'll
Yes.
talk tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Pat.
Thank you. All right, with that done, or not done, but done for tonight. We can move on to new business. Number one is the proposed resolution for local law 2022 to amend chapter 12064F of the town code regarding telecommunications towers.
And we were notified that the 239M has not come back from the county yet, so we will have to take that up at a future meeting.
Is that overdue?
When I submitted it at the last meeting, I talked to Attorney Howe regarding submission of it. It needed to be submitted. It's being reviewed right now, but it's not complete.
You wait till the next meeting. Or the next time you.
That makes us look bad again.
No, it's just waiting. It's just a time thing.
Well, I didn't think it was that significant of a change, but
It
so
can
be
wait.
it.
It can wait.
We've got to follow the law. Okay, we could move on to new business number 2. A proposed resolution to authorize the supervisor to sign a lease for the 1911 house with the Rush Historical Society. Dan, do you want to comment on that? You've been involved with this from day one.
I think we should go ahead and get the lease signed so they can get their grant application in. ASAP.
That was a concern when I put this on the agenda, to want to make sure they have all they need to be in a position to apply for that grant. So tonight is when we decide whether or not we want to sign that. I think we should also, Dan, because they can't go anywhere without that signed lease.
Yeah, that grant is key to the whole project, if you ask me.
Yep, that grant is.
Yep, I agree.
I agree. Would you like us to read the
I
resolution?
would like,
Is there any other takers? What?
I don't have a copy of it with me.
Oh, really?
Okay, if you want to go for it.
go for it.
All right, I shall read it. Resolution authorizing the execution of a lease with the Rush Historical Society for real property located at 1911 Rush Scottsville Road, AKA the 1911 Corner House. Whereas the town of Rush is the owner of real property located at 1911 Rush Scottsville Road, AKA the 1911 Corner House. And whereas the town is in possession of an impressive, priceless, and ever-growing collection of historical tools, household items, artifacts, and memorabilia from current and previous generations of town residents, hereinafter as the collection, which collection is currently stored at the town hall and as such is ill-suited for public display or access. And whereas the town of Rush Town Board, the town board is committed to preserving and recognizing the importance of town history and community pride, and believes that providing a space whereby the collection may be more visibly enjoyed and accessed by the public serves the public interest. And whereas the town board has determined that the 1911 Corner House has usable space that is suitable for the collection to be relocated there so that it may be better managed, displayed, and stored for the benefit of the public. And whereas the Rush Historical Group, RHS, is a not-for-profit corporation which was formed with the purpose of working with the town historian to preserve and protect the town's rich history. And whereas RHS has proposed that it is willing to partner with the town and provide its services to help manage, I don't want to lose my space, its services to help manage storage and display of the collection for the benefits of the public, if the town were able to provide a suitable space for RHS to provide such services. And whereas the town intends to enter into an operating agreement with RHS, whereby RHS would provide a service to the public by managing the collection so as to increase the public's access to and education of the town's rich history. And whereas in furtherance and in consideration thereof, the town and RHS have negotiated a proposed lease agreement, the lease pursuant to which in consideration for the RHS's aforementioned services, RHS would lease the premise for 25 years for an annual rent of $1. And whereas the proposed lease to RHS is a type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, which requires no further environmental review. And whereas the draft of the proposed lease has been submitted to the town board for review and is on file with the town clerk. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the proposed lease in a form substantially similar to the proposed lease attached hereto, and subject to final review and approval by the attorney for the town. Any other documents reasonably necessary effectuate the same, and be it further resolved that the lease be for a period of 25 years and that the annual rent shall be $1, and upon all other terms as more fully set forth in the proposed lease. And be it further resolved that this resolution is adopted subject to a permissive referendum as provided by New York State law, section 64 and article 7. And be it further resolved that within 10 days after the adoption of this resolution by the town board, the town clerk shall, as set forth in town law, section 90, post and publish a notice which shall set forth the date of the adoption of this resolution and contain an abstract of this resolution, concisely stating the purpose and effect thereof. Such notice shall specify that resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye. Thank you.
Mhm.
Here, I'll just note that there were a few comments today made about some changes to the lease that I think were minor. I'll be making before you sign that, so I'll be making further review and comment on it before, give you my approval before you sign anything, okay?
Thank you. We can now move on to new business number 2. I'm sorry, number 3, a proposed resolution for the process and procedure for 2023 town board meetings. And Deputy Supervisor, you have been involved in promoting this from day one.
Yes, everyone on Zoom and here in person, we've been working on this for well over a year and a half. The town board currently has been working on it in workshops. We did send it for posting to the town website for if anyone wanted to look it over. What it is doing is it is superseding a resolution dating back to January 26, 2000. And it is giving the town board the authority to establish rules of procedure for the conduct of its meetings according to town law section 63. There are different parts. There's a mission statement. There's public comment period, public hearing, public information meetings. There is then the town board's order of its meetings, how business shall be taken up. And then the responsibilities of the town supervisor in setting the agenda, so forth, public hearings and minutes. There, I can make a resolution if we want to have a discussion on it. Do we want to discuss it beforehand? I think we had pretty much nailed it down to what we needed to at the last workshop in December.
I agree.
With
I
those
agree.
corrections.
I think we're ready to move forward.
I am.
Right. I did modify the resolution that was drafted out, so if everyone is, see if you're okay with my rewording, and if it's acceptable, I will forward it to the town clerk. Be it resolved that the town board approves the rules of procedure for the Rush Town Board dated December 28th, 2022. Resolution number to be filled in supersedes resolution number 71 dated January 26, 2000. The town board has the authority to establish rules of procedure for the conduct of its meetings, town law section 63. This resolution will be effective as of January 1st, 2023. I know we had wanted it to be effective in 2023. If that's acceptable.
I second
Is there a
it.
second? Thanks, Jean.
Councilperson Corbin,
Aye.
Councilperson Morelli,
Aye.
Councilperson Wilbur,
Aye.
QC.
Aye. Thank you very much. And we are now going to move on to the proposal for the town Facebook page. I'd like to have a little thought time
I'd like to see the proposal.
and have the board come back to discuss that with opinions. So we will pass on number 4 for the evening, and we will go to the last new business item, and that is library door security hardware. As most of you know, we have had some local police, meaning the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, come in and talk to us about what to do in the case of a breach of security in the town hall. And that was followed up with a request by the library to have the sheriff's department come in and look at their, what I will refer to as special circumstances that exist over there that might not exist in the town hall. And they had a deputy who I'm told has some security credentials, who came in and made some recommendations for what could be done at the town hall to give people greater comfort being there. And the first thing I did after that was I called our own person, our code enforcement officer, who knows quite a bit about security in this day and age. And he in turn went to Alliance Door and Hardware Company and took the salesperson there on a tour of the library. And they have come back with a proposal for upgrading the hardware in the library. Kirsten, have you seen this proposal?
I have not seen a final proposal. I've had several conversations with Doug about the proposed upgrades. I haven't seen the final.
Okay, well, the proposal is for a grand total of $6,204. And what this will do, and Kirsten, if you'd like to speak to this, I'd appreciate it. What this will do is remove some of the current security breaches that could happen in the event an active shooter wanted to get in that side of this campus and do some naughty things. Did you want to speak to that, or?
I'd like to see the proposal before I speak to it, if that's possible. So I want to make sure I be accurate.
All right. Any comments from the board?
No, I haven't seen it, but I think this is something that we should pursue and not drag our feet on. I mean, whatever, you know, we got to know that it's the right thing, but we should do something.
And I had conversations with the library director on this. Again, being a retired school teacher, I know what we went through and how the locks had to be redone on our doors and things like that. And I know I've shared that with others. So I am glad they're being proactive and looking into this. However, I think we also need to do our due diligence of getting a second quote. If we're doing it at this amount of money, then we should be, there can't be just one door company that would do that type
No,
of work.
there are others.
And I don't want to postpone it because I think it's long overdue to have the work have been done. So I would like to have another vendor come in and give us a proposal,
I will,
only if the board is in agreement with that.
oh, I don't have any problem with that proposal.
Okay.
At all, because it's a sizable sum. And we're talking about protection of people.
Well, that's the most important thing, protection of people.
Absolutely.
If it's-
So what I will do is I'll get a hold of our code enforcement officer, ask him to make another contact for another proposal. And I will distribute the proposals to the board members so that you can look at them and form an opinion about them before we go forth.
Can the vendor that are coming through, again, the library is being proactive, but there are also other areas potentially in the town hall. Is that something that they also could have proposal one library and other parts of the library, such as their third floor where who knows?
That's a good question, because you know that we have talked about the third floor isolation for a long time.
Mhm.
We've talked about, there, I see a head bobbing out there, and because she sits on the third floor. And,
Right,
you know, it would be nice to have, like, my desk has a security button.
Oh, don't tell anybody.
No one in this room, would ever come in and want to mess with my security button. But anyway, it is there, and I think it's more appropriate being on the third floor. But rather than remove mine and put one on the third floor, two on the third floor, I would like to have included in that proposal
Yes,
the security button installation in both of the offices on the third floor.
and their doors as well. Again, no one should have to walk out, and lock their door from the outside. They should be able to lock it from the inside.
All true.
So that would be
I will
safety
take,
first.
I will take care of that and you in agreement?
I totally agree.
And you're in agreement? Dan?
In agreement.
In agreement, great. All right, well, that leaves us with,
There's one last item, Supervisor, we did not make it on there with the cancellation of the special town board meeting on December 23rd because of the storm. We need to reschedule
Okay.
that special meeting, so the town clerk has drafted a updated motion to schedule us another special town board meeting for the interviews. So if everyone is okay, I so move to reschedule the special town board meeting of December 23rd, 2022 to Friday, January 6th, 2022 at 5:30 PM at the offices of the Rush Town Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543, in order to conduct interviews for the open positions on the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
So I would just say it should be January 6, 2023.
Oh, you're right. Yep, January
Can't go
26th.
backwards.
As amended.
Do you have the notes from the 22nd,
Yes, everything is the same.
January 6th, 22nd?
Oh,
I'm just,
that meeting, yeah, we got those minutes.
all right,
Okay.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Wilburn,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusie.
aye. Thank you very much.
Now I'm done.
With that, having no further business to conduct, I therefore adjourn this meeting and I thank you for all attending.
Have a happy new year. Be safe, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
I
Happy
always
New
love
Year.
saying, see you next.
All in favor?
Oh, aye.
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 Aye.